I think also we need to, as ultra runners, entrepreneurs, we need to notice our wins more. We need to notice like what we're doing well, because it's very, very easy to just criticize ourselves and point out all of the mistakes that we've made or how we could have done something better. Like, it's good to get honest feedback, but we don't need to just constantly judge ourselves. Like, we need to notice what we're doing well, where we're crushing it, really.
Welcome to this episode of Storypreneurs Podcast. Today, we're joined by Jeremy Inabnit, an ultra-running coach and endurance athlete who helps runners push their limits and achieve peak performance. Jeremy placed second in the Atacama Crossing in 2023, grueling 250-kilometer self-supported stage race in Chile. He's a certified ultra-running coach and a personal trainer, helping athletes build strength, resilience, and endurance for extreme challenges. He joins us today as we dive into key lessons from ultra running that every entrepreneur can apply to their journey. Hi, Jeremy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Seth. Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Of course. Absolutely. Listen, I really enjoyed your talk in the Alicante Digital Summit, and I loved how you talked about performance and health and mental health. And there's some key things that I felt that, your insights and knowledge we can bring into this podcast. So I appreciate you coming here. How did you all get started?
Sure. So I guess I could start with, when I started really running and training, which was when I was about 26. I started running just really to get in better shape and like to lose a little bit of weight. I think my dad had been picked up running recently and was already doing a marathon or two. So I sort of got recruited and joined him in training for another one. And of course I struggled immensely, at the beginning. But there's something about the long runs in particular that really kind of, I don't know, there was something that was very satisfying about going out and doing a hard thing every weekend and somehow finishing and going further and further every weekend. And I just felt that, I found that to be really satisfying. And I found some kind of strange peace with myself about doing that. So running kind of got me at that point. And then I continued to run, as I went around the world, traveled, lived in different places. I ran in, every country. I guess when I was a scuba diving instructor for several years, I was in the water most of the time. I didn't have so much time to put into running. But at some point, I got a land-based job as a scuba diving operations manager. And so then I picked up running again. And I guess I can just say that it was during that time when COVID hit, and my girlfriend and I, we both lost our jobs in the scuba diving business, and we talked about moving to Finland, her country. And so I was going to study and become a software developer, which still seems crazy to me. But and we were going to try to live a normal life in Finland. And to be honest, I was not super excited about moving from Bali to Finland. But I thought, well, I can at least focus on running and I can train for some big event or something, because I really hadn't raced much at that point. And that's when I found this race that was going to be in Lapland in the summer of 2022, which would give me about a year to train. The race it looked incredibly exciting, ridiculously challenging, but it got me excited and motivated, and I thought this would be something to kind of latch onto and make the most out of my time. And so what it was a 7-day stage race, multi-day, 250-kilometer race, like you sort of have already described there at the intro. And so I trained for that, and when I was training for that, that's when I really realized how much there is to ultra running that I just did not know about. And I learned basically how I was doing everything wrong up until that point, with fueling, with hydration, with training. I mean, I realized how much I did not know. So I started learning a lot, really got into it, enjoyed the science of it. And it was was getting ready for the race, and then I actually got COVID right before that race. So I could not do it. Fortunately, I was able to postpone my entry and join in the Atacama Crossing the following year, which is what you'd mentioned there. So I trained for that, and I guess that's when I was sort of becoming an ultra runner and actually knowing what I was doing. And I entered some events and did really well. And on like on a parallel track, I was working as a software developer. I did get a job. But I really did not enjoy it at all. I was not good at it. It did not align with my, skills and interests. And so I was already starting to think about becoming like an online personal trainer and coach, and maybe just help people with, fat loss and gaining muscle and that kind of thing. But as the race approached, I started thinking about maybe I could be an ultra running coach. And so I got my certification in that. I joined that race. I did, really well, came in second place. And it was pretty much right after that I said, okay, I'm opening business and I'm an ultra running coach.
Like, for someone who doesn't know what ultra running is, could you just briefly explain what ultra running is and why is it important to prepare for it?
Yeah, sure. So technically, an ultra marathon is anything beyond the marathon distance of 42 kilometers or 26.2 miles. A 50K is an ultra marathon. So nowadays the distances range from, 27 miles all the way up until, 450 miles. And so the race that I did was self-supported, meaning that we camped for a week and we needed to carry all of our food, sleeping kit, mandatory first aid items. And the pack ended up my pack was 8.5 kilos at the start. And of course I ate along the way and reduced it down to, 5 kilos on the last day. But
wow. So you have to carry your equipment with you. Cause then every time I think about running, pardon my ignorance, but it's just, I think like, oh, I'll just go for like a 10K or for a 12K or for a 15K run, and then it's like, I go back home and then you don't think about it, but this ultra running sounds like hardcore. I mean, you have to run. So how long does it take to do 250 kilometers in that case?
So I did it in about 30 hours.
30 hours. Okay. So, but did you sleep during that time?
Yeah. So it was a stage every day. So it was it was roughly like a marathon a day for the first 4 days. And then the 5th day was a double marathon. And then the 6th day was a rest day. And then the 7th day was like 10 miles or something.
And how do they measure? Is there like a finish line? Did they measure the time and that?
Yeah, they're marking the time that you cross the line each day for each stage.
Okay. So there is a line each day then that you have to cross. Okay.
Yeah. And then you camp for that night. Yeah.
Okay. So how does one prepare for an ultra marathon then?
Yeah. So there's all of the training that goes into it is basically, it depends really on the person. The person is starting from here and they need to get to here. And so then it's a matter of like, how much time do you have? How much time is there to train? So what adaptations do we have time to work on? Can we get them faster? Or do we just need to work on building their endurance to actually just cover the distance? And so we do that in the training, and then there's also all the fueling and hydration and the gut training and everything, because, as even marathon runners, they need to fuel during these races. So an ultra marathon, a lot of the game is staying on top of the fueling and the hydration so that you don't bonk, or hit the wall, at 20 miles or 30 miles or whatever. You need to be able to keep going.
And how much of that do you say it's mental resilience and how much is physical?
I think it's funny because I've heard a lot of people comment on this. It's 100% mental, 100% physical, and all this. I think that, you need to have a good plan and you need to be well trained physically, so that when it comes to the mental component, there's maybe there's less to do. Like, it will be hard work and you do need to be mentally prepared, but like, let's get you physically trained so that you don't have such a heavy load to lift. I'd rather it starts getting difficult at, mile 25 rather than like mile 5, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Are there any people that kind of like, oh, I want to do like the next thing, I want to do Ironman, I want to do, the next thing?
I would say the most common response for someone after their first one is they do it, and the first day or two, they're like, never again, that's it. And then like
Really?
Yeah, and then like 3 days later, they're looking and browsing websites and trying to find the next race, because it does start to get a little bit, it's something you actually realize like, wow, I enjoyed pushing myself and that challenge and the feeling that I got from conquering that distance, and I'm ready to do it again and see what else I can do.
One of the reasons why I got you on this podcast is because there's a lot of similarities in getting ready, and building a performance with entrepreneurship. And, ultra runners, again, battle fatigue, self-doubt, pain, just as entrepreneurs face many setbacks and uncertainty. And what advice would you give your clients on building resilience, staying focused, and pushing through those challenges?
Yeah, so I think that building, first self-doubt, like, yeah, we all have this as ultra runners and entrepreneurs. We're looking at some incredible challenge and thinking about the version of us that's right here, about how we're going to do that. But through training, through a good training program, we're slowly building the confidence and building the resilience. So if we think of resilience as a skill, every week when we're going out, we're doing hard workouts, we're doing long runs, things happen, they don't go as planned, but we recover and bounce back. We're slowly building up that skill. And I think just for myself as an entrepreneur, it is also like, you just keep taking the actions. Things don't happen as you would like always, but it's like, okay, let's just get back and keep going. And then just practicing that, doing that over and over, I think just builds up that skill.
Is it about motivation, or is it something else to keep going, to keep pushing through those challenges?
I think that most of the time the clients come with their own motivation. Maybe what they need is at some points is maybe what they need is for me to tell them that they're actually doing great, because what can happen is at certain points in the training cycle, they will have this doubt, they will have anxiety about certain things, they will feel crushed by the training during certain blocks and feel very fatigued and start to doubt. And maybe what I can do is look at the data with them and show them what I see and let them know, like, actually you're doing really, really well. And this is very normal to feel this at this point, or in the taper before the race. It's very normal to feel anxious and worried. So I think that's maybe the where I step in. But most of the time they're coming with their own motivation, their own deeper why that I cannot really replace.
Is it just getting fit, or is it, something bigger than that?
It's usually something bigger. It's usually something along the lines of they want to really challenge themselves and really have a unique experience. And I think when you are going through these races, you're having an incredible experience that you will never forget. And you are maybe more alive in that moment or those hours than you will be for, many other moments of your life. And the training is also just kind of like personal development, disguised as a sport, really.
Would you say is the toughest part about being an ultramarathon runner?
I think it depends on the person. Sometimes it is about that balance with the training. Sometimes the self-doubt is strong.
Are there any strategies that help you or your clients achieve that consistency, achieve peak performance, maintain consistency, and keep that going?
Yeah, so with consistency, I think the most important thing is having a training plan that is really built around the person and meets them at their level with their current life situation. And what I see often is that people decide they're going to do something, and they take on a plan that, they're designing the plan, or they're finding a plan when the motivation is super high, and so they take on so much, and then they just burn out, after a few days or whatever. And so we want to create a plan that is doable. And oftentimes, even when I work with an athlete and for the first time, and they see the plan I've put out for them, they're like, "That's it, really?" Like, yeah, we're going to start here. We're going to nail this part, these basics, and then we're going to progress. Like, don't worry, there's plenty of time to do a lot more volume and more intensity.
So how long does it take to prepare someone?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's, and often the coach answer is always, it depends. But I will say I've worked with clients for as little as 4 months to prepare for a big race. I don't really prefer it that way. More time is always better. And I'm working with clients now who are thinking super long term. They're looking at races in 2 to 3 years. Because with more time, we're able to build in a very sustainable way. And there's a lot that we can do, and you can always get better with more time.
Mm. What about the role of health? Not just physical, but mental health. How does that play in achieving long-term success?
So I think I think health is everything. With a healthy body, you have a better chance of having a healthy mind. And as an entrepreneur, especially, you need to have a healthy mind and good mental health to continually take the hits and handle the adversity and the setbacks and the doubt and all of this. And so I think taking care of the body, sleeping well, prioritizing good nutrition, exercising, every day regularly, all of these things help contribute to better, clarity, focus, creativity, resilience, and all of this. Not to mention, also just staying in good shape removes the distraction of having some kind of sickness or ailment or whatever. Because if you have some kind of physical problem that you're dealing with, and it's just taking up space in your mind, then it's just harder to, do anything really.
Would you say, when it comes to designing a plan, is there anything that you prioritize, or is it individual with each client? Like, how do you ensure success, and what does success look like for an ultramarathon coach?
Yeah, so success for me is that the client hits their measure of success, so that they reach the goal that they're setting out to do. And when it comes to the planning and building a program, I love this so much. This is just really what I geek out on, because everybody is so individual and unique. They all have their unique history of training, a history of injuries, different work schedules, and they have kids or relationships or other obligations, access to gym equipment or no access to gym equipment, or everything is so different. And what we're trying to do is figure out how, for this person with those variables, can we design a program that they'll get the most out of, so they can get from here to there. And so it's very, very individualized. And like I said, that's the most fun for me.
Do you recommend that everyone works with a coach? And the reason why I'm asking this is exactly like entrepreneurship. There's a lot of noise right now about, buying courses online to, help you progress. There's a huge community out there that's talking about, you should go with a coach. There's another one that you should go with a course as well. What's your view when it comes to ultra running, for example? Would you recommend people just do a self-learning course? Do you recommend the coaching? You briefly mentioned that a lot of people like that inspiration when they sort of reach the kind of a peak at some point and they just can't go further. But I'm curious to hear generally what's your view on sort of, coaching versus courses.
So I guess the first thing is, obviously there's a cost to coaching. And so a lot of people are making that decision, like, can I put together my own plan? There's so many resources online, or now they think like, oh, I can just ask ChatGPT to give me a plan. And that might be a good starting point for a lot of people. If they're looking to, save that money. But I think coaching is for people who have the resources and the money to invest and want to go really with anything. They want to go further, faster. And they want highly individualized programming so that they're really not wasting any more time. And, and this is why I've also invested in coaches as well. Because, I'm in my 40s and I just don't really want to waste a whole lot of time figuring things out. So if it's something I really want to do and do right, let's just get to it.
Yeah, makes sense. It's what we find in entrepreneurship. There's actually a lot of entrepreneurs end up having a coach, and there's a lot of benefits to it. One of it being that it's not just that sort of motivation that helps you through it, but the experience of having gone through it. And you, for example, you have done ultramarathon running. You've been through it, and you know what it's like and stuff. I'm sure that it's not just the personalized plan that they're getting and that motivation, but also firsthand experience of what it's like, which super invaluable, I think, when it comes to it. Are there any strategies for achieving sort of peak performance? I'm sure a lot of people would be listening to this and they'll be like, okay, great, I've got my coach, I've got this, but how is it that I can achieve peak performance and be the best that I can be?
So there's one strategy that I really like, and it's around this idea of removing as many stressors as possible. And so when we're training for a race, we know that things are going to happen during the race, that, we're just kind of expecting that something might go wrong. If we're out running 100 miles, for example, you may lose some of your fueling or trip or something happens, just anything could happen out there. So we know that things are going to happen. We can handle a few things going sideways, but we don't want to handle 100 things going sideways. So we try to train and get prepared as much as possible. And part of that is getting very familiar with everything. So in training, we're wearing the gear that we're going to wear for the race. We're using the fuel that we're going to use for the race. And we have a strategy around what we're eating and drinking with all the equipment and everything. We're even trying to run on terrain that is similar to that of the race, if that's possible. And so that is just, the more that things are familiar, then the more comfortable that a person can be when taking on a new challenge. And I could give you an example actually for how I've applied this strategy as an entrepreneur. When I gave this talk that you met me at, I wanted to remove the amount of stressors. I haven't done a whole lot of public speaking, so I went down to the building. I checked it out. Okay, this is where I'm going to speak. I'm going to stand here. The screen is here. The bathroom where I'm going to throw up beforehand is over here. Just kind of getting used to the environment, so it's more comfortable, so it's not a shock. And in the morning of, I went for a run, and while I was running, I practiced with what I was going to say, so I know what it's like to deliver it at a higher heart rate. I can give Sahil Bloom credit for that tip. It's in his book. And I even Googled, what does a group of 100 people look like, to just look at a picture of 100 people to see okay, what is it, because I'm removing the shocks and the stressors and all the little things. I'm just getting more and more familiar with what's about to happen. So that when I showed up, it was just a little bit easier. When a couple things did kind of go weird, people were walking in late and crossing the stage, and something with the projector was goofy, but it was okay, this is only a couple things, It's getting familiar with as many things as you possibly can. And even for these stage races, these multi-day races, I ask people to practice camping and get in their tent. You think this is no big deal, I've camped or whatever, but no, go sleep one night in your bag and make sure how it is with the pad and that the pillow doesn't slide out. You don't want to find all those things out on the first night out there in the desert. And then, it is about thinking about what things could happen out there, and and sort of developing a mindset about how you're going to handle those things.
So pretty much just like entrepreneurs, and this is one of the reasons why I kind of invited you, is because there's so many similarities through, you know, going out your comfort zone and challenging yourself mentally and physically, and it's all connected, and going through fatigue and self-doubt and financial pressure and uncertainty and staying focused and remaining, consistent. It's so great. It's amazing how preparing for something. The only difference is, unfortunately, there isn't, someone that can prepare you for, here's how to be an entrepreneur. It's mostly like most entrepreneurs just go right into it, and then they find themselves in like the deep end, and they're like, okay, now it's time to get a coach,
Yeah, I mean, I think, one thing that there are a couple of skills that are really useful for ultra runners, and I think also for entrepreneurs. And one is to really stay focused on the things that you can do, because it's so easy to start speculating and get lost in like all of the things that could happen, or like, oh, I got this injury and now I can't train. Well, actually, maybe you can still get on the bike and if you can't run, maybe you can get on the bike and do some cycling or do some strength training or whatever. And I think it's the same with entrepreneurship. Like you can think about all the things that, you could think about everything and go crazy, but you really want to focus on like, what actions do I actually need to take? What will move the business forward? That's where I want to put my focus and attention, and everything else is kind of a waste of time and energy, really. It's
true. You can get stuck in doing, for example, a lot of admin, but at the end of the day, that's not going to move the business forward, or you're not going to, move the needle. So, it is what you can control within this.
I think also we need to, as ultra runners, entrepreneurs, we need to notice our wins more. We need to notice like what we're doing well, because it's very, very easy to just criticize ourselves and point out all of the mistakes that we've made or how we could have done something better. Like, it's good to get honest feedback, but we don't need to just constantly judge ourselves. Like, we need to notice what we're doing well, where we're crushing it, really.
Is there any advice that you can give to your younger self, if you could, that you could share here with us?
Probably have taken too many things too seriously over the years. I don't know. Probably just need to loosen up a little bit. Sometimes I loosen up like maybe a little bit too much. But
you're talking to a workaholic here. I definitely could take that advice.
Yeah. I mean, I slip into it sometimes, but it's good to just like get a little perspective and think about, like that we don't have to. Work is not everything.
So, Jeremy, what's next for you, and how can people get in touch with you if they want to know a little bit more about coaching, you becoming their coach?
Yeah, so next for me, I'm currently training for some races here in Spain, actively coaching. This is my gig, my full-time job, taking on clients. And so you can find more about me. I've got a website, runfarliftheavy.com. And I'm on Instagram. It's slightly modified because that name was already taken. So it's runfar_liftheavy_. You'll find me if you link it. But I guess those are maybe the two places people can find out a bit more about me and get in touch.
Yeah, I'll put the links below so people can get in touch. So appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciated you coming. Thank you for your insights as well. And I guess I'll see you around next time I come to Alicante.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Totally my pleasure. It was really good to chat with you, and looking forward to catching up with you in person next time you're here.